Hey there, people. Welcome to the second episode of the Under the Radar Real Estate Podcast with your host, Joshua Jean-Baptiste, broker with Sage Real Estate and Garrison Collective. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the under the radar neighborhood of Weston. We're also going to be talking about blockchain in the real estate industry. It's a topic that's goes under the scenes, under the radar right now in real estate, but it's something worth keeping an eye on because I think it's going to be the underlying infrastructure of how real estate is done going forward. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a few little tidbits, little market tidbits, anecdotal things about what's kind of going on in the city of Toronto. So let's delve right into our first topic, the under the radar neighborhood of Weston. Weston Road flows, I did it. So if we look at Weston on a map here in the city of Toronto, as I zoom in here near Weston Road, it's located in the northwest corner of the city of Toronto proper. So it's obviously, as the name suggests, located along Weston Road, just south of Highway 401 and north of Eglinton, and it follows along the banks of the Humber River. So the epicenter, or I guess the central hub of the neighborhood of Weston is Weston and Lawrence. So it's a very historical neighborhood. It was founded in the late 1700s as a sawmill. It was its own independent village until the city of Toronto started expanding and developing and eventually was amalgamated into the city of Toronto. But the cool thing with Weston, it still maintains a lot of its old Victorian charm. Unlike downtown and some of the areas of downtown Toronto, which had the massive fire, as we all know, Weston still retains a lot of its old Victorian homes, a lot of old Victorian storefronts and historic churches and libraries, and so on and so forth. So definitely a neighborhood worth visiting at the very least in Toronto, but in my opinion, an area worth keeping an eye on from a real estate perspective because it's a great area to live in the city of Toronto. So what defines it? I mean, as you can see here, tons of great parks. You're on a river, so there's tons of great nature trails and walking trails, golf courses nearby. You have kind of your traditional Toronto neighborhoods of Victorian houses as we look right here on the map. You have amazing transit. You have the Union Pearson Express, also known as the UPX station right here, along with a GO station. And then coming soon to the neighborhood is the new Mount Dennis LRT station, which will add much needed rapid transit to the neighborhood. And likely over time, Weston will very much likely go from an under the radar neighborhood to one of the next new destination neighborhoods in the city. I mean, while that happens, we also want to make sure that it's not fully, completely gentrified and push all the current residents out. We just want to add more new residents to the neighborhood to add to its vibrancy. So let's jump right into the current state of affairs from a real estate perspective in the neighborhood of Weston. So let's look over here at the numbers. So the overall average for all house types in the neighborhood of Weston, looking at about $842,000 for your average house. If we break that down by house type, detached houses just under $950,000, semis just under $782,000, towns just under $730,000, and condos just under $530,000. So as you can see, versus the overall average price down here in the city of Toronto, there's quite a bit of quite a large gap in overall prices when you look at Weston versus the city of Toronto. I mean, overall average house price is about a 27% savings versus the city of Toronto. Now, if we were to compare that to some of the trendy neighborhoods in the city, again, you see massive savings in the town of Weston, I call it the town of Weston, the neighborhood of Weston versus some of the trendy areas in the city of Toronto, as you can see here. Now, why is that? I mean, Weston has been under the radar mainly due to access. Um, the UPX station is still fairly new. The Go train station has been there, but the big game changer for the neighborhood is the addition of the Mount Dennis LRT station, which is effectively a subway. It'll connect the neighborhood to the rest of the city via rapid transit. As we all know, traffic is garbage in the GTA in the city of Toronto. So a neighborhood like this that was very car dependent is now moving towards a rapid transit based neighborhood and will completely revitalize the neighborhood and the area, both serving the current residents really, really well and any new potential residents moving in. It'll be a huge boon for the neighborhood and will transform it, in my opinion, for the better. So then, if we move on to new development, there is a ton, and when I say a ton, there is a ton of new development coming to Weston Road from the 401 right down to Eglinton. So, as a total number of units, we're looking at just over 11,000 new homes currently planned or under construction uh, along Weston Road during that along that corridor. And we're not talking about little developers, large scale developers. We have Castle Point Numa building there. We have the Bassar Group. We have Fengate Properties, Gerlach Developments, Haven Properties, Trolley Bus. But the biggest of big is Choice Properties building a massive development right at Eglinton and Black Creek. We are talking 7 buildings, 2,356 units planned for that site. So I do have let me let me pull it up right here. A little here it is here. So this is a rendering of what that site might look like. Right now, this is an artist rendering. I mean, the buildings could look very different once they're actually proposed and planned. But this was from the Choice REITs. I lost it here. This is from the Choice REITs second quarter report from 2022. So yeah, as you can see here, that is Weston in the background there. And in the foreground here, this is the development. So the address is 25 Photography Drive. So that from a map perspective, if we go back to the map, this is Weston right here. Weston Road, if we zoom in right there. And as we travel down Weston Road right here into Mount Dennis, here we go. So this is that site. 2,300 brand new homes coming to this site right across the street from that Mount Dennis LRT station. Also, there's a proposed GO station for that site as well, which will then kind of be the entryway to the Mount Dennis Weston neighborhood. So going back to the new development list, as you can see here, tons and tons of new development. And generally, the way I view the city of Toronto from a real estate investment standpoint is to follow the big money, right? So if the big money is already moving into Weston, they see the development potential there. So you know that the neighborhood will have a massive injection of funds that'll help bring the neighborhood. I mean, it's already a great, vibrant neighborhood, already tons of stuff there currently right now when it comes to retail and restaurants and shops, but it'll only add to the livability of the neighborhood and really add to its vibrancy going forward. Another interesting developer and development is some of the stuff that Castle Point Numa is bringing to the neighborhood. I mean, they have uh, what is it? One, two, three major developments, almost 2,000 units that they're proposing right at the corner of Weston and Lawrence. So if we look here, let me just pull it up. The first development that seems that they have in the offing is Weston Park, which is right at the corner of Weston and Lawrence. So you can see here they have the addresses 1871 to 1885 Weston Road. Uh, Looks to be a beautiful project. Um, its neighbor is the UPX and GO station. So from basically from the front door of your apartment or condo, you can walk downstairs, be on the UPX, and be downtown within 20 minutes. So very interesting development there. Building a beautiful building. Or what looks to be a beautiful building right there at the corner of Weston and Lawrence. So what can you get right now, Weston and Lawrence? I mean, we've talked about kind of the numbers, the figures and facts about kind of where the real estate market is right now, the new development that's coming, but what's available right now. I mean, as you can see here on the screen, this is just a little sample of what's available, but it kind of shows you the variety of what's available. I mean, you can get anything from a one-bedroom condo townhouse like this one right here. You have some new build condos that are occupying very soon, like this one here called The Humber, being built by Delterra and Options for Homes. And then if we scroll down here and we look at, I mean, one of my favorite properties in the neighborhood on aptly named King Street. Yes, there are two King Streets in the city of Toronto. This one here, beautiful house. Um, Currently listed at just under 1.5 million. But I mean, if you look at this house, I mean, this house, I mean, looks like a house you would find near, let's say, Yonge and Eglinton or Lawrence Park. A house like this would run you in the $2, $3, $4 million range in some of these other more established neighborhoods in the city of Toronto. And in Weston, you're looking at getting this house under 1.5 million. I believe this house even has a pool. Um, so some beautiful properties up here in Weston for people to look at currently right now. And it's a neighborhood that if you are looking for investment potential, there is a ton of potential uh, in the neighborhood of Weston. I mean, once all the new development gets put in, once the LRT station is up and running, and once we start seeing more of these projects break ground and start to take shape, we will see a flood of new residents want to move into the neighborhood. So then in terms of like what you can expect Weston to look like in 5, 10, 15 years from now, just look over to Yonge and Sheppard. Yonge and Sheppard has a very similar vibe from a purely real estate perspective, but it's kind of what you're seeing right now in Yonge and Sheppard is likely what you're going to be seeing along Weston, with a bit of a different feel because again, Weston was at one point in time its own little village, so it still retains a lot of that little small town, downtown type charm. With a lot of the new development, which will only add to the vibrancy of the area. So again, if you're looking for an under the radar neighborhood right now, that likely again, like I will say in many videos going forward, won't be under the radar very much longer. Look here to Weston. Right, so let's move on to our second topic of blockchain and the real estate industry. So blockchain, I mean, everyone has heard about blockchain mainly via crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the different cryptocurrencies, NFTs, people buying pictures of random animals for hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. That's not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about blockchain as an underlying technological infrastructure for real estate. So about a year ago, here in Toronto, the Toronto Real Estate Board changed up its search platform from a platform called Stratus to a new search platform called Realm. And Realm, it was built on top of a blockchain infrastructure and will work with the incoming new blockchain architecture infrastructure that the Toronto Real Estate Board is now looking to implement here in the city of Toronto. So what does that all mean? So I mean, TRREB was fairly cryptic in a recent news release dated January 20th, mentioning that they are partnering with Terranet, AMP, and a company called Vision Max on this new blockchain-based infrastructure for real estate in Toronto and the province. So what I took from this is that we're likely moving to a point where likely property records and such will be moving to a blockchain based system. So because it's moving to that system, what blockchain is really good at is security, right? So it's a very highly encrypted, um, basically database that makes it really tough for unauthorized users to access that data, and it also makes it nearly impossible to change or replace data that is stored on the blockchain. We call that immutable. So it's really tough for people to alter, change, or delete any data that is placed on the blockchain. Once it's there, everyone can see it. It's really tough to change, remove, or even have access to if you don't have the right keys to access that data. So it looks like that's part of what TRREB is doing. The other part of TRREB's move towards the blockchain is to implement smart contracts. So what is a smart contract? Um, so as we see here from the website Block Geeks, a smart contract is a digital agreement that enables two or more parties to exchange money, property, shares, or anything of value in a transparent, conflict-free way while avoiding the need for a third party. So why is this important? Well, it looks like TRREB is now moving to a place where perhaps in the near future we can now complete real estate transactions without the need for a lawyer, right? A lawyer is generally that third party that is used to exchange real estate. We already know that there's some places in the US where you don't need a lawyer to close real estate deals. And perhaps maybe Ontario and TRREB are going to use the blockchain and that technology to implement that same system, right? Whereas a smart contract, whereas in traditional real estate, the lawyer is the one who is reviewing title to a property to ensure that title is free and clear on the transfer. A smart contract can do that automatically, right? It'll look at the title of the property, make sure that any liens on the property are taken care of prior to closing. If there's anything there, it'll flag it automatically for the user and not allow the transaction to happen. So without getting into too many details, because I don't know too many of the details of what TRREB plans to do, it seems to me that this is likely the direction that TRREB is moving towards, or at least getting the infrastructure ready in advance, so that way that when legislation changes or if any changes are made, the TRREB can quickly switch to a position for us right now where uh, a real estate transaction can be slow, cumbersome. We're still beholden to the land title office, whereas properties have to close by a certain time of day. If we move towards a smart contract system, you could look at a property right now, negotiate a fair price with the seller, and have the actual title transferred to you within minutes, seconds, milliseconds via smart contract. So something definitely worth keeping an eye on going forward. And what are some other applications and uses? So I mean, with blockchain, I mean, there's already a company in the U.S. called Proppy, which basically converted the title of properties to an NFT. So I know a lot of you watching this have probably, I mean, we've all heard of NFTs. We've all seen transactions of these digital pieces of art that have traded for millions of dollars. NFT doesn't necessarily mean a piece of art. NFT just means a non-fungible token. So it's a token that's placed on the blockchain that, again, because of blockchain data put on there is immutable, right? So an NFT is something that can't be replicated, duplicated, or deleted, right? So if property title is stored on the blockchain, you could effectively look at then a property title as an NFT in a way. And there's certain companies in the US, whereas most traditional real estate industry or most traditional real estate boards have not completely converted their systems to blockchain. Some areas have just decided, okay, we're going to take that paper document and turn it into an NFT and then sell that property as an NFT. So we call that kind of property tokenization. So that's an interesting use for blockchain in real estate. Um, and then what we kind of already talked about at the hop of like uh, using crypto payments for the exchange of property, another application. And there's probably hundreds of other applications for blockchain in real estate, but it's just something very exciting to see, something worth keeping an eye on going forward because I think it will completely transform the way real estate is currently done in this day and age. And then when we add on the multiplier of artificial intelligence, which we'll talk about in subsequent podcasts, artificial intelligence mixed with blockchain, with the blockchain, will completely transform the way real estate is currently done in this marketplace in this day and age. And ultimately, it will likely just benefit the consumer by having a much speedy, more transparent real estate process. And by having that kind of more transparent, quicker process, again, it benefits the consumer because transparency is key in this day and age. Most of my clients, that's what they're looking for, right? They're looking for transparency. We got to remove this opaque process. And I believe I'm a big supporter of new technology and especially of blockchain, bringing a new level of trust and transparency to most people's largest financial transactions of their lives. All right, last up for the podcast, just want to talk about a few little kind of like market anecdotes, kind of what's going on, what I see in the market. The market's still in kind of a weird place, as we all know. The real estate market is dependent on the overall financial markets. And the financial markets, if you read the news, super unstable right now. Inflation is still, while it is coming down, it still hasn't been fully reined in. It's not under control. So as right now, I mean, the market is being driven by interest rates. Interest rates are still high. Uh, the cost to borrow money is still high, which means mortgage rates are high, and it's still putting a little bit of downwards pressure on price. Overall, in the city of Toronto, though, we've seen prices. I mean, they're fairly stable. They have stabilized. People have now gotten used to the current environment. And I think most buyers also understand right now that rates where they're at right now, uh, for the most part, are likely not going to be going any higher. So if buyers are able to afford the current elevated rates, they are still getting into the market with the hope and understanding that eventually those rates will more than likely come down at some point in time. When that is, nobody knows. But it seems like some of the smarter buyers are placing bets that within maybe 2 to 3 years, we will be back to a lower rate environment. And by getting into the market now, paying a bit of a lower entry price, paying the higher elevated rate and mortgage rates, that eventually that mortgage payment will come down. Another thing we're seeing in the market right now, rents are out of control in the city of Toronto. It feels like they're they're going up by hundreds of dollars every month, which is insane. In my opinion, not sustainable. We definitely need a lot more rental product hitting the market. The big developers are trying to do their part by building large scale, large, massive purpose built rental buildings. The problem with that type of building is that it's not quick. It's not coming quick enough to kind of put a little to throw some water on the fire of rental rates. So we need more product hitting the market soon, and that's where it comes to local government. We need to be able to build small scale rentals quickly, right? Whether it be fourplex, triplex, multiplexes. So right now, the city of Toronto is looking into speeding up the process of getting multiplexes built. So if anyone's watching this podcast, definitely write into your local councillors. If they don't currently support that legislation for multiplexes, write them an email, say, hey, I live in the city of Toronto. I want to see this legislation put forth because whether, even if you're not a renter, you may have friends that are looking for rentals, family, you may have kids, like adult kids that are looking for rentals. You really want some of this legislation to pass because we need more rental housing in the city of Toronto because housing costs are spiraling out of control. We need to get it under control. We need more housing. So please, please, please get your local councillors on board with the new legislation to allow more multiplexes, triplexes, duplexes, 4, 5-plex units to be built in established neighborhoods. And yeah, that's about it for the podcast for this week. If you like what you see, please like, subscribe to the channel, and also keep an eye on for our other videos. We'll be doing a neighborhood highlight video on the neighborhood of Weston. We'll likely get into some houses that are currently listed, kind of show you what's available right now. We'll also kind of look at some of the new developments coming in the near future. So keep an eye on the channel, subscribe, put the notifications on. There will be new videos hitting soon. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Again, like, subscribe, definitely helps us out. And keep an eye out for episode 3 coming next month. Thanks again. Peace out.